was full of hatred. I wanted the worst for him, and the worst was going to prison for the rest of his life. God changed my heart. I mean, he delivered and set me free the day that O'Shea and I met in 2005.
You can't always beat down somebody for a wrong that they did. There is good in people.
The last time I have a job here was more than a month ago.
We see you, and we see that this is not equitable for you, and we're going to do something about it.
Welcome to Voices. I'm Alan Henry. Here at WCCO, we're committed to bringing you stories featuring the diverse voices of Minnesotans. Today, we hear from people looking for opportunities, creating solutions, and breaking barriers. We start with reporter David Schumann and photojournalist Ari Mendoza, who spoke with just a few of the hundreds of people fleeing Ecuador and looking for asylum in Minnesota.
For hours, the people here hold out their thumbs and swarm to any car that pulls over. They're from Ecuador, new to Minneapolis, and looking for work. Day jobs like moving, cleaning, or construction. The competition is intense.
Como todos.
When a car stops and tries to pick a guy, we all run and try to get there first and get picked. But that doesn't happen all the time. The last time I have a job here was more than a month ago.
Without a work permit and without legal documents, we are undocumented. That is why we cannot find any stable work.
This section of Lake Street near the old Kmart has become a symbol of what experts say is an overwhelmed immigration system. Many of the people we spoke to have fled danger in Ecuador and are seeking asylum here, a legal process that would allow them to get a work permit. But Minnesota's courts have nearly 13,000 cases in backlog.
I have my court date in February 2025.
In the meantime, Alejandra, who is a nurse in Ecuador, comes here, always thinking of her family back home.
Every afternoon, I make a video call with my 8-year-old son to help him with his homework, find out how his day went, and bring joy to my day. I immigrated to the United States to have a better life for me and my family, but I haven't been able to find something.
Nearly 2,000 Ecuadorians have immigration cases pending in Minnesota. David Wilson helps who he can as an attorney, but he says there are no easy solutions.
There's not enough judges, there's not enough asylum officers, there's just not enough government people to process the requests. And so it leaves people in limbo, wondering what to do and how to feed themselves and their children while waiting.
We were told jobs typically pay $15 an hour, but on the rare occasions they even get one, it doesn't always go well.
Yesterday, a contractor stopped by saying that he wants some people to work in construction, and he had a few guys in his truck. But someone said that he made him work for a week, and he didn't give him check for $1,200.
Many organizations help where they can.
Bueno. Gracias. Adiós.
The nonprofit Involve MN serves regular lunches here.
They're all here trying to get a job. It's like, how do we help them just, keep the strength to be out here to want to work?
Ultimately, Wilson says it's going to take political willpower to improve the system. One suggestion he has is to fund more staffing to get through the backlog.
It's so politically volatile, but people forget that they're just real lives. There are people really running from real danger.
Yes, I feel optimistic. With God's blessing, today I am going to find a job.
With photojournalist Ari Mendoza, David Schumann, WCCO News.
We do good with catfish and chicken wings.
It's business as usual inside A&J Fish and Chicken on East Lake Street.
You try it, you get hooked.
But owner Jamal Tashtouche says the last 2 weeks have been rough.
You come not knowing what to expect, especially now. Yes, it's more than nervous, it's kind of scared.
That's because just feet away from his restaurant, this homeless encampment popped up.
I can feel the business going.
Tashtouche says he spent thousands of dollars beefing up security and spent hours picking up used needles.
Looking at the needles that they use to inject themselves. And I'm supposed to go around the building and pick up those needles. I got a family, I don't want to catch a disease.
Right next door, at Duke's Cars and Towing.
The business is low because nobody wants to be around.
Too much problem. Neighbors are also starting to feel uneasy.
I'm scared to come out because there's some people laying down.
Minneapolis police responded to a shooting in the area Saturday morning, and on Monday, a man was fatally shot.
The city got to do something about it. Hola!
After 29 years on Lake Street, Tashtoosh is hoping for one thing.
Things to go back to normal, where I can see my regular customers and be safe.
Uba Ali, WCCO News.
We met Mary Johnson Roy and O'Shea Israel back in 2011. Their bond strong now, but not always.
Even though I was a Christian woman, I was full of hatred. I wanted the worst for him, and the worst was going to prison for the rest of his life. I saw him as an animal and that he should be caged.
Back in 1993, when he was 16 years old, O'Shea shot and killed her only child, Laramian Lamont Bird, at a house party in the Twin Cities. For 12 years, she lived with pain and resentment until she went to visit O'Shea inside Stillwater Prison.
God changed my heart. I mean, he delivered and set me free the day that O'Shea and I met in 2005.
That's what she said the meeting was like. The first meeting, it was like beyond belief, and how everything started happening afterwards.
They traveled across the country telling their story of reconciliation to anyone who would listen. They spoke in front of community groups, told their story on national television, even speaking with heads of state. Mary also started a group, From Life to Death, to help mothers who have lost children to gun violence.
Without me, it won't be the rest of the story.
With Mary's passing, her legacy will live on through O'Shea and her granddaughter, Rosalinda, a woman who never met her father.
It would happen 5 months before I was born. So it's like I'm the one who's supposed to carry it on and keep going. People do deserve a second chance. You can't always beat down somebody for a wrong that they did. There is good in people.
She still has questions for the man who took her father's life, but she is willing to work with him to continue to spread Mary's message of love, something both say Mary prayed for.
You know, the fact that she's no longer here, and now here we are. And so the work that she put forth from death to life is like really still going. It didn't die with her.
Reg Chapman, WCCO News.
With the cutting of a ribbon, the Harding High School auditorium became the Joanne Clark Auditorium Saturday morning.
I was so surprised as how many people show up.
It's all to honor the woman who started what would become the Thinking Career and College Early Fair more than 20 years ago inside a church.
That's the first time that I ever seen Harding Auditorium full with people who look like me.
Clark has helped more than 1,000 students put a focus on their futures, even assisting with tours of historically black campuses and universities, with 80% of those students going on to higher education. She's even helped raise more than $1 million to ensure those students can afford the trips.
And what makes my tour different, even if the kids do not have that 2.0 on up, I'm going to take kids who have a 1.5 or 3.
Fittingly, HBCUs were numerous Saturday. Students like Benoit St. Margaret's Jr. Judah Johnson Nixon are here checking out their options.
Like FAMU is one, and then Hampton University is also one. I want to go into the science department.
Well, from the beginning, HBCUs were the only places that our people could attend, and I think they help so many people find their ways in a world that doesn't treat them right or treat them the same as others, and it gives people those same networking advantages that they wouldn't be able to find other places.
For Clark, it's about closing educational disparities while giving opportunity to those who wouldn't ordinarily receive it.
Those kids' life have changed, and now they probably your doctor or your lawyer. You probably just don't know it.
In St. Paul, Jason Rantala, WCCO News.
In a packed room inside Children's Minnesota.
We know that families will be excited to have this product available to them.
It really is a dream, to fill a need for not only the community that I come from, but for kids everywhere.
The nation's first modest pediatric gown was unveiled.
It is the first healthcare system in the nation to offer this to their patients.
With more than 10 years of healthcare experience, Hilal Ibrahim, founder of Henna and Hijabs, knew creating a more inclusive healthcare experience should involve medical gowns.
We all know that the patient gown is not the friendliest thing to anybody, adults, kids alike. So to have something where a patient can now walk without feeling exposed from the front and the back.
This collaboration with Children's Minnesota
launching the modesty gown is a major success for our healthcare system.
Provides pediatric gowns designed with sleeves, a closure that provides flexibility.
We wanted the patient to feel comfortable, but also cute.
and comes with a detachable Muslim headscarf called the hijab.
Very long process that was very intentional.
Intentional to meet the needs of patients and providers.
Beneficial for the patients, but it was also beneficial for the care team, and they had easy access.
These designs were created with Muslim children in mind, but is available to all patients.
I hope that this gown brings joy to the children that will be wearing it.
Uba Ali, WCCO News.
1,000 pediatric modest gowns have been rolled out so far. Still ahead, we hear from a young scholar about the impact of seeing the work of a renowned Black photographer. Plus, one woman's mission to bring healing and wellness to North Minneapolis. Welcome back to WCCO's Voices. In a moment, we'll see how a Minneapolis brewery is connecting English and Spanish speakers. But first, the long-awaited reopening of the Minneapolis American Indian Center is finally here. WCCO's Cole Primo got a tour of the site.
Mary Lagarde is the executive director of the Minneapolis American Indian Center, which will have a grand reopening soon after more than $30 million of sorely needed renovation. She's still working out of boxes because she was only recently able to move back in and is rediscovering bits of the past while unpacking.
We are looking at some historical documents. These are the original plans of the Indian Center, and this is from a newspaper dated Wednesday, March 1st, 1972. So this was the beginning of the development of the Minneapolis American Indian Center. It's just so interesting to look at these documents. You know, this was before we were able to do what we can do on computers now.
Mary leads a center that was born out of the community's input in 1975 and provides essential services to more than 10,000 members of the Native American community every year, helping preserve and support indigenous cultural traditions through its many programs. One of the more striking renovations is an impressive basketball and gym space.
We have our logo in the middle of the floor, and so it got an upgrade.
It's an upgrade that supports a big part of the center's mission in promoting healthy lifestyles, and
it really is about providing those safe places for people to gather.
There's also a new rotunda, an expanded indigenous food restaurant, and many more improvements. They are improvements Mary is excited to share with the community when the center reopens its doors very soon.
Yes, we're right on Franklin Avenue, and yeah, we're right along the American Indian Cultural Corridor, and we'll be having our grand reopening on May 1st.
It's the corridor's community that will be well served by her and the center's great work for years to come. Cole Primo, WCCO News.
That's not normal. Daniel Hernandez has endured his share of hard times, vandalism and break-ins.
It's really hard, man.
Natural disaster in his native Mexico.
My sister's house is completely gone.
Yet a smile is never far from Daniel's face. His colonial market in Minneapolis, a Hispanic grocery and restaurant, has items you won't find in most other stores.
The plátanos. Being Dominican, that's one of our staples along with rice.
I check other markets, but I'm not finding everything. Is for why I coming always here.
One of the things that most people really are confused about Mexican candies is that why candies have to be spicy. 90% of the stuff that we sell come from other countries. That's what makes it so special.
Authenticity is Daniel's goal for his food and for himself. He says that means giving back to Minneapolis, his adopted hometown after moving here as a teenager.
While everybody's running away from Minneapolis, everybody's like scared of Minneapolis, we're actually investing millions of dollars here in Minneapolis.
Daniel's goal is a chain of groceries, and he'll be opening his second colonial market this summer near Lake in Hiawatha, just blocks from some of the worst looting and damage of the 2020 riots.
In Mexico, it's very popular to name little towns colonials. Usually colonials are inside of a big city. So when I was growing up, I live in a colonial. So that's why we call it colonials.
He also owns an accounting business, a marketing firm, and this breakfast restaurant, employing more than 80 people in all, which is a point of pride. And then there's the social media. His Danny in Minnesota accounts keep him connected with the community he loves.
It's about anything and everything, and some things are really funny. some things are really serious, but the good thing is Latinos are like that.
All in a day's work.
The first thing I think about is, what am I gonna do today and how can I improve the community that I live in?
In Minneapolis, David Schumann, WCCO News.
Sierra Carter is slowing things down.
Big breath in through your nose.
Offering calm in her North Minneapolis sanctuary, the Zen Bin. Her R&B candlelight yoga class is intentionally in the dark. It's a judgment-free zone. She urges her clients, mostly women of color, to rest. But for her, it's been a 12-hour workday by the time she heads home. That's why every morning starts with something healthy, like fresh lemon and garlic to fight a cough. It's something she's learned after years of health struggles.
Once you get curious about your body, you just kind of start exploring things, researching things, finding things and ways to heal yourself naturally.
Morning is time for Carter to read from her Bible. Her faith has been a guiding force as she's struggled to find healing places for mindfulness, exercise, and healthy food, often feeling judged or out of place in the primarily white-run establishments she's visited. She sets her intention for the day, then heads to her other business, Heal Minneapolis. Both businesses were born from the idea that she could create what she couldn't find on her own health journey, for herself and her unserved community. Located at 42nd and Lyndale in North Minneapolis, a food desert, Heal offers plant-based food, drinks, herbal medicines, and community. Carter grew up in the suburbs, but is now committed to North.
North Minneapolis makes me feel seen. It makes me feel heard. It makes me feel safe. A lot of people think that this neighborhood is not safe, but I feel safest here. That's the way.
Regardless of the workload, Carter prioritizes family time. She says at least 10% of each week is spent with loved ones, like her Aunt Julie's family and her mom, Jamie.
I'm proud and I'm happy for her because she doesn't allow, she's a young lady and she doesn't allow people to put her in a bubble, but she just goes on and creates, and her creations are for the world.
One of those creations is the wellness center we visited, the Zen Bin, which fills a gaping hole in North Minneapolis.
In through your nose.
According to the Yoga Alliance, 70% of yoga practitioners are white. Carter wants the people who visit her spaces to feel the acceptance she couldn't find. Barrett Leone, WCCO News.
Inside the Minneapolis Institute of Art.
This is the exhibition by Gordon Park.
On bright colored walls, these black and white photos hang.
Nothing in his photographs are left to chance.
A photograph is worth more than 1,000 words, especially his.
Kevin Pollard is talking about American Gothic, shot by nationally renowned artist Gordon Parks, an activist and artist who came of age in St. Paul.
American flag in the back, broom and mop in the other hand. Those are her choices of weapons.
A visionary who used his camera to highlight the life of Ella Watson.
I think that's what his photography encompasses, the American experience through the eyes of a black man.
This intimate series of photos take us inside Watson's daily life as a custodian and a family woman in the 1940s.
I feel like I'm at home with Ella Watson. I feel like I'm in her living room. I'm in her church.
That feeling is made possible 8 decades later through these photos.
His photo, American Gothic, captures a deep sadness.
That's because Uncle Gordon honored his subjects, built the relationships, and now the scholars can benefit.
Robin Hickman Winfield is Gordon Parks' great niece and a teacher at Gordon Parks High School.
Uncle Gordon's smiling, I would say.
She believes this exhibit exposes students to new opportunities.
So they're understanding why Uncle Gordon took that powerful photograph, and they're taking it to the next level.
In Minneapolis, Uba Ali, WCCO News.
We got everybody's mics, like quick talking on mics. We can adjust it a little. Yeah.
Ready? Hello and welcome back to the Changing the Narrative podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Gabriel Warren, along with co-host Carl Benson.
It's a conversation that cuts to the chase.
Like, there's a lot of burden that I've come to realize walking around this world as a black man.
This week, Thomas, an entrepreneur and coach, is the guest.
There seems to be a monolithic viewpoint of what a black man is or what a black man is supposed to be.
And that is the point of this podcast. It's the collaboration of two members of 100 Black Men, a mentorship nonprofit. Carl, a marketing exec who grew up around mostly white people in North Dakota, and Gabriel, a professor who grew up around mostly black people in Alabama.
I was around a lot of black people, a lot of progressive people, a lot of people who were making impacts in their communities, but those weren't the people that I was seeing celebrated on television.
For me, I didn't have a network of black men, and the only thing even I saw was what's on TV. Like you see folks on TV doing this, that, or the other thing, or you see musicians, or you see athletes, but you just didn't see regular guys doing great things.
So they just launched Changing the Narrative to amplify the many voices of black men.
Black men that are having good jobs, being there for their families, taking care of their kids, you know, giving back to their communities, and I wanted to celebrate that.
They've talked to the president of a building group, a high school ESL teacher, and Thomas, who runs a grill company.
I would be remiss if I just worked on my own and didn't think about us as a whole, right?
Tell us a little bit about what you are doing in your community. How do
they are talking with black men, but they are hoping another demographic is listening.
I'm building to be a better me.
Carl and I were talking about that, and when we were planning it, we were like, you know, the target for this podcast is non-black people, because a lot of people in the black community know this stuff. I feel like this platform gives individuals outside of our culture an opportunity to kind of get a glimpse of what it's like to be a black man in America.
Just the idea, too, of not being afraid to have some of these conversations, is that kind of part of it, too?
White folks in general sometimes get a little nervous, I guess, when they start talking about race and race in general, especially black-white kind of stuff. And for me, it's all about relationship building. And I think that ultimately that's what we hope to do is like, look, you know, I'm a cool guy. Dr. Warren's a cool guy. Let's just have the conversation and keep it moving.
My success is my community's success.
A conversation that will go far.
Reach down, reach up, reach all around.
As drinks flow at La Doña Cerveceria, so too does conversation.
Es una hamburguesería.
In Spanish, until
Time to switch.
Doña, the mission behind it has always been to celebrate the Latin community, and part of celebrating is sharing.
Sharing a drink, says GM Sergio Manancero. Well, sharing something more. Each Tuesday, Hablamos Pues, or Let's Talk.
Yo quiero ir a Valencia don't have enough time.
Lets customers learn each other's language over a beer.
There's a ton of people that are in Minnesota that want to learn how to speak Spanish. There's a ton of like native Spanish speakers in Minnesota that need to practice their English, and it's a little easier to get past your like social inhibition of stopping yourself from practicing the language after a beer or two.
Alex Shannon, a regular.
In a classroom, you don't always speak that much. You tend to like read and repeat, maybe write. I think it's easier to learn when speaking with folks because you don't have to worry as much about the structure.
As is Francisco Rojas.
That I can practice English and I can help people with Spanish. And I also like that I can know new people.
Cheers and salud.
If you have one beer with somebody, maybe they'll open up a little bit more and you can talk to them about their family. And as somebody that likes to connect with people and really get to know them, that's why like it takes a beer to figure that out.
Bienvenido.
Adam Duxter, WCCO News.
The Hablamos Pues program is free and you don't need to register. Just show up Tuesday night at 6. Well, still ahead, how the Twin Cities refuse to lose a taste of Asia. Plus, an effort to make sure all kids can take full advantage of playing with friends at recess has paid off. That's next. A beloved Asian bakery has been rebooted after closing more than a year ago, bringing Asian flavors back to the Twin Cities. WCCO's David Schumann shows us why Kiefer Court's reopening has people lining up.
Day one, and the word was out.
I actually knew it was coming here. That's why I came an hour early.
I've been waiting for 45 minutes.
Asia Mall in Eden Prairie has been a hotspot since it opened, and now it's added a bakery with name recognition built up over decades. Kiefer Court closed in Minneapolis' Cedar Riverside neighborhood at the end of 2022. They sold their name and recipes to Michael Bowie, who's been preparing to reopen here for more than a year.
I've been going there for 30 years. My kids have been going there, and there really isn't anything like it in Minnesota. You know, usually we have to travel to Chicago, New York, or California.
Okay, so let's dive into the menu already.
Coconut, these are the Lotus Red buns. So you got some egg tarts, an almond cookie, got some pork buns, and a coconut cream roll, I think. I really love Asian desserts like this, and I don't know of another place that sells this kind of stuff.
Everything about the ingredients and the taste, and I don't know, it's stuff I grew up with.
Longtime Kiefer fans might recognize Sonny Kwan, the previous owner, temporarily out of retirement to carry on his legacy, as he puts it.
They want to, keep the product that I expected. I'm still baking inside.
High standard.
High standard. Yeah.
If this looks busy, wait till the official grand opening festivities Saturday the 23rd.
People are excited, so I think it brings back a lot of memories. When you're open 40 years, you build a pretty loyal customer base.
In Eden Prairie, David Schumann, WCCO News.
Somerset is a neighborhood school. The original schoolhouse building was built in 1936.
Leo has a rare genetic disease called Pompe disease, where his body cannot break down glycogen.
But sometimes the playground structure that we have right now can feel intimidating to some kids. And so we want to make one that does feel accessible. We see you, and we see that this is not equitable for you, and we're going to do something about it.
One day after kindergarten, I picked him up and I said, "How was school, buddy?" And he said, "It was fun, but nobody wanted to play with me on the playground." And as a mom, you just feel like it's a gut punch.
What the impetus was for this project was making sure that we have a structure that is accessible to all of our students. We met with many different vendors. We narrowed it down to 2, and then the kids got to vote on which playground it was going to be the one that we installed.
The snow playground might be fun, and it will help kids who have autism and kids in wheelchairs.
Our end goal is $300,000 to be able to make this happen. We have written over $400,000 in grants, but so far we've been denied all of those grants.
Being a mom of a kid with special needs, we really are used to, like I said before, being told no a lot.
We currently have $36,000 secured, so we have a ways to go. Once they start the install, it just will take a couple of weeks.
I would like to raise money so people like my brother and like Leo can play on the playground.
We've had kids coming in bringing, $5 that they got from grandma or from their birthday, and I want these kids to look back on their elementary career, be like, look at how everyone rallied around me so that I could be a part of this.
We hope that you could donate money for this piece.
I remember my number was like 51.
Sitting inside the Minnesota History Center, Derek Rubin, Diedrich Henderson, and John Baker look back at their own history from the early to mid-'80s when they were around 12 years old.
This is the trip to Chicago right here.
These 3 were part of the McRae All-Stars, the first AAU basketball team in Minnesota, and founded by head coach Ralph Crowder.
He brought kids from Northside, Wisconsin, other cities, just brought us all together, and we became family.
He just was a stand-up man that believed in us, and he took us all around the country.
Coach Crowder took these young boys to each coast, playing different teams across the U.S., and the McRae All-Stars found a lot of success.
To actually win this tournament with over 100 teams, the small team from Minnesota.
While these boys were just playing the game they loved, they were simultaneously laying a blueprint for what would become a huge aspect of the sport.
It makes me feel like we laid the foundation.
Without that group pioneering the way, I probably don't start East Metro Wave.
Jay Schwartz founded the East Metro Wave AAU club based out of Cottage Grove. This club is one of nearly 40 in the Twin Cities Metro that now exists because of what McRae All-Stars created.
The innovation, the forethought, I know how much work it is. to do that. And yeah, I think it's absolutely amazing, and we should thank that group for what they did for Minnesota basketball.
While club founders are thanking these original players, they thank Coach Crowder for believing in them.
In the inner city streets, sometimes it could be rough, you know, on how growing up, things that you see, but we're going with the McCray All-Stars and Mr. Crowder, he turned me into the right direction.
In St. Paul, Marielle Mose, WCCO Sports.
Thanks for joining us for Voices. Head to youtube.com/WCCO for more stories giving voice to diverse communities.